The rise of cotton plantations and the expansion of slavery in the American South during the late 18th and early 19th centuries were closely intertwined, driven by economic forces and technological advancements. As cotton became increasingly profitable, the demand for labor to cultivate and harvest it grew, leading to the expansion of slavery across the southern states. However, cotton and slavery were not always dominant in the South. The region's economy was initially more diverse, with tobacco, rice, and indigo being the primary cash crops. Slavery existed, but its scope and scale were more limited, particularly in areas where these crops were not as labor-intensive as cotton would become. The dominance of cotton in the South began to take shape with the invention of the cotton gin by Eli Whitney in 1793. Before this technological breakthrough, cotton was not a particularly lucrative crop because of the labor-intensive process of separating cotton fibers from their seeds. The cotton gin significantly reduced the time and labor required to process cotton, making it much more profitable. As a result, cotton quickly became the South's most important crop, leading to a massive expansion of cotton plantations across the region. This expansion required a substantial increase in labor, which was met by the forced labor of enslaved people. As cotton production spread, so too did the reliance on slavery. The profitability of cotton created an insatiable demand for more land and labor, leading to the establishment of large plantations where enslaved Africans and African Americans were forced to work. The Southern economy became increasingly dependent on cotton and, by extension, on slavery. The success of cotton as a cash crop reinforced the institution of slavery, making it central to the economic and social structure of the South. The expansion of cotton plantations and slavery was further fueled by the global demand for cotton. Cotton was a critical raw material for the burgeoning textile industries in Britain and the northern United States. The southern states, with their vast tracts of arable land and favorable climate for cotton cultivation, became the leading producers of cotton in the world. The wealth generated by cotton exports entrenched the plantation system and the institution of slavery, as southern planters sought to maximize their profits by acquiring more land and enslaving more people. On the plantations, enslaved people were treated with extreme cruelty and brutality. They were seen not as human beings but as property, valued only for their labor. Plantation owners, motivated by profit, imposed harsh conditions to extract as much work as possible. Enslaved people were forced to work long hours in the fields, often from sunrise to sunset, with little rest. The work was physically demanding and exhausting, especially in the hot and humid climate of the South. To maintain control over the enslaved population and suppress any resistance, plantation owners employed a system of violence and intimidation. Enslaved people were subjected to brutal punishments, including whipping, branding, and mutilation, for even minor infractions or attempts to resist. Families were often torn apart, with members sold to different plantations, adding to the trauma and suffering of those enslaved. Enslaved women were particularly vulnerable to sexual exploitation and abuse by their owners. The constant threat of violence and the dehumanizing conditions were designed to instill fear and ensure obedience, keeping the plantation system running efficiently. In summary, the expansion of cotton plantations in the South was closely linked to the growth of slavery, as the profitability of cotton drove the demand for more labor. While the South was not always dominated by cotton and slavery, technological advancements like the cotton gin transformed the region's economy and entrenched the institution of slavery. The treatment of enslaved people on plantations was characterized by extreme brutality and dehumanization, as plantation owners sought to maximize profits through forced labor, violence, and intimidation. This period marked a dark chapter in American history, with the economic success of the South built on the suffering of millions of enslaved people.